July 22nd, 2025, regular meeting of the City of Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room, and agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission.
State law establishes planning commissions. This planning commission is comprised of 9 residents appointed to serve our community. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. Other individuals participating in the meeting include representatives of the city's planning department, city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Woodman Associates.
If you wish to address the Planning Commission, are we using that microphone as the lectern, maybe? Come forward to this lectern when recognized, and there's a place to print your name and the address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission, not to anyone else in the room. If you have a cell phone or any other device that might disrupt this meeting, please either switch it to silent mode or turn it off. And at this time, I ask the Planning Commission Recording Secretary, Kathy Zarnicki, to conduct the roll call, please.
Mr. Buechner?
Here.
Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Malala Holly? Ms. Barakis?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next is the approval of tonight's agenda. Okay, Mr. Faison and Ms. Malala Holly seconds that. Any comments? All right, we're ready for the vote.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Barakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is the approval of our minutes from the July 8th, 2025 meeting. Does anyone want to make a motion? Mr. Buechner, seconded by Mr. Lambert. Any discussion, corrections? Okay, I think we're ready for the vote.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Barakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Abstain.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next up is public comment for items that are not on the agenda tonight. But before I open it up for public comment, I did want to say something about it. Last meeting on July 8th, Mr. Arvin Staffa came and spoke at public comment, and he had made the claim that the planning staff had not been responsive to his email communications, and specifically asked if there were any outstanding issues that might be preventing his application from appearing on our agenda. So generally speaking, as a commission, we do not respond to public comment, as it's not meant to be a conversation or a Q&A. Public comment is exactly that. It's an opportunity for Troy residents to come and speak in an open forum. Having said that, I did feel a little bit awkward not responding to Mr. Staffa, particularly because his claim was that the planning department was being unresponsive. So I did want to go on the record stating that the day after the meeting, I did reach out to the planning department via email, and Ms. Dufresne was copied on it, to find out the status of the application. And Ms. Dufresne advised me of the following. First, the board is not obligated to respond to any public comment, which we know. Number 2, Mr. Staffa has a pending lawsuit against the city, and he's represented by an attorney. And number 3, Ms. Dufresne was going to seek advice and guidance from her boss, the city attorney, Lori Greg Bloom, about how to move forward with the Crooks Road project. So I did send a follow-up yesterday asking for an update. I haven't heard back, but to be fair, Ms. Dufresne is on vacation this week. But I just wanted to let everyone know that. And just any questions or comments? Okay. I'm going to now officially open it for public comment. We are limiting 3 minutes. I don't know if we have a timer. We have a timer, no flashing, exciting lights, but...
And this is for items not...
Yes, for items not on tonight's agenda.
And if anyone's going to speak, that records but does not amplify. The microphone.
Great. Hi everyone, Fabrice Midauskas, resident of Troy. I wanted to speak about North Troy, which I think may come up today, but is not on the agenda. So you're thinking about how to develop North Troy, which is great. You're likely going to see that the office space there is heavily underused. And so what I thought was great was the Northland Enclave proposal to rezone underused office space in North Troy into residential use. I think we should see more of that in that area. We should sort of make that area more vibrant than it currently is. You rarely see pedestrians or cyclists there. It's all office park. We need more mixed use, residential as well as office space, as well as retail, to make that a sort of more vibrant part of the city and better land use there. Now that more density and more residential includes mid and high-rise apartment buildings. And I was dismayed to see that in the zoning language and map proposed for the neighborhood nodes, 2.5 stories is the maximum height, except at 5 corners of 3 nodes where site type A is allowed, which would allow 3 stories. Okay, the purpose of height restrictions is not because tall buildings are ugly, okay? It is not because that's not the Troy you grew up in or have lived in for the past 40 years and you want to keep it that way. Frankly, most residents don't care about that because we care about the current Troy and the future Troy. And I don't think Ann Arbor would accept those types of height restrictions. Mr. Carlisle? I don't think Royal Oak would accept those types of height restrictions. And we see those areas as being highly desirable for new residents to live in. So I would urge you to raise those height restrictions, in particular in site type A, which is supposed to be the highest density area of the neighborhood node, far from any single family home. The only reason for a height restriction should be because neighbors would complain. These would be areas far from neighbors. So allow those heights to go as high as they need to be. Even mid or high-rise buildings should be allowed. Thanks.
Thank you, Fabrice. Is there anyone else here? Could you please sign in? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry. There's a pen in the chair. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda? Okay, I think that closes the public hearing. Or public comment, gosh, I don't know why I said hearing. Okay, so our item next up is our zoning ordinance text amendment, file number 258, neighborhood node revisions. And I believe that Mr. Carlisle has a presentation for us.
Where's the presentation? One second, bear with me.
We do have a presentation we're trying to
We
find.
do.
Oh, you're trying to find it?
Yeah.
We should build something like that in Troy right there. On the cliff. Cliff would be nice. That's what it is.
You know what section?
Over 16 miles.
Yeah.
Isn't that what your development looks like?
Well, I gotta go do one quick thing.
Okay.
And while I'm going, Mr. Carlisle is gonna remind Fabrice about the fact that we have a master plan that calls for the things he's talking about in North Troy.
So I'll respond real quickly. Fabrice brought up North Troy. That is something that we are going to bring back to this planning commission shortly. We want to try to get through the neighborhood node tonight, but obviously there's been some recent development activity in North Troy that the planning commission recently did a rezoning, went to council to support the reuse or reoccupation of an office building. The good news is that we already have a sub-area plan for North Troy that aligns exactly with the points that were being made. So there's not any sort of changes to the master plan. What we need to do is kind of recodify or codify in the zoning ordinance our zoning for North Troy. North Troy right now is a mix of 7 or 8 different various zoning districts, which are inconsistent with each other in some respects. So the idea is to come back to the planning commission and discuss a new zoning category for North Troy that will incorporate many of the ideas in the master plan for that area that align with kind of the intent vision of this planning commission moving forward. So that's coming probably in the next month or two, depending on how fast we can get through the neighborhood nodes, and then the next thing we're going to tackle is North Troy. So it's coming, and it does align with the current master plan as well.
I think Mr. Fox has a question.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really exciting to hear. Very curious to see what the department brings forward. One thing I also want to make sure is kind of put on your guys' radar, which I'm sure it is, but I just want to state it, is ADUs. Getting ADUs, some kind of guidance so that ADUs can be permitted in properties that are large enough in the city of Troy. So just kind of put a pin in that as well would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I-
ADUs,
Accessory.
accessory dwelling units. Yep.
ADU.
Sorry.
I was hearing it as one word.
Is that like a mother-in-law?
It's like
suite or
ADUs.
something?
Mother-in-law, commonly referred to as mother-in-law suite or in-law suite.
Really
Yeah.
good to use the name, not acronyms, so that general public has an understanding of what we're saying.
I won't lie, I forgot what the A meant for
Plus
me.
you're not-
I knew what I was talking about.
All right.
Here we go. Thank you for your patience.
So, obviously, we're here to talk about neighborhood nodes. I am simply the messenger tonight. A lot of these ideas, and most of these ideas and vision came from the steering committee. There were 4 members of the steering committee. It was Ms. Pracus, Mr. Faison, Mr. Lambert, and Mr. Krentz, who really worked diligently and hard on this during the process. There were 3 steering committee meetings and a lot of emails and other correspondence in between to get us to the point tonight where we're going to explain the proposed changes. I want to note that we understand this is a lot to digest. We're not going to go through everything tonight. We're going to focus on the text tonight with the hope of bringing the map changes at a future meeting. Whether that's the next meeting or not, we're still trying to figure out. So tonight is just a text discussion. I want to start by saying that through the steering committee, in relation to the master plan, the steering committee found that there is value in the neighborhood nodes. There's no need to get rid of them. There's obviously a need to tweak them. But there is value for neighborhood nodes, and there's value in ensuring that neighborhood nodes are a viable zoning option in Troy. However, in reviewing, the one thing that we started out with was we really wanted the steering committee to really focus on what is the intent of the nodes and what are they trying to do. And I think, Mr. Krent, I'm going to speak for you here and tell me if I'm wrong.
Go right ahead.
I think Mr. Krent really relayed the point that we've kind of gotten away from what the original intent of the neighborhood nodes were when we first drafted them. And we really wanted to focus and have a discussion about what the purpose and intent. And it started out with, the intent really is to serve adjacent neighborhoods. They're supposed to be a mixed use, low intensity, commercial type of development that really serves the adjacent neighbors. They're not intended to be regional draws. They're not intended to be overly developed, and they're not intended to have automobile-oriented type uses that really don't serve the neighborhood. They're intended to be mixed use. Encourage first floor commercial with upper story residential. That is the intent of what the nodes are supposed to be. Creating a 24-hour place in these nodes is important, and that's done through mixed use. Promote pedestrian design and open space, again, serving the neighborhoods, allow people to walk to these spaces. But once they're in the spaces, there should be some form of open space to make it an enjoyable space. An open space, in our mind, doesn't have to be green. It can be plazas, it can be nicely designed other type of landscaping space or pergolas or something of that nature. It doesn't have to be just grass, it can be other forms of open space. And as all land uses in Troy, we've learned the lesson over the years is that transition between intensity, especially near single family or adjacent single family, is really important for respecting. And so incorporating buffers and height restrictions and height transitions and land use transitions all are important when we discuss neighborhood nodes. Kind of related to the focus are the issues. Partly because of the market reasons, but partly because of zoning reasons perhaps, there's been an over-reliance on residential only developments. Recently in the nodes, we basically have gotten really only residential only developments. There's a lack of placemaking and mixed use outcomes. So a lot of them look very similar to each other. A lot of them don't have that wow factor that we're looking for in the nodes, and they don't really serve the neighborhoods. And there's no mixed use components in most of the neighborhood nodes. There was concern or an issue about the development, specifically the scale and massing and poor transitions against adjacent properties really has not been, I think it's been a focus of the planning commission. There's perhaps just not the tools in the ordinance to really require the appropriate transitions. And lastly, we have always hear concerns about architecture, traffic, and setback concerns. Those are kind of constant themes that we hear throughout the review. How do I go forward? Okay. So the direction we received over the 3 meetings with the steering committee was, first was to was to update the intent statements. So, planning commissions, or the steering committee, I should say, spent a lot of time on updating the overall neighborhood node intent statement. That's the first paragraph you see when you read it. And then second, go through each site type and really focus on what the intent of each site type are. And again, these are supposed to relate to the long process we have with the master plan and relate to the text of the master plan. So again, updating of the intent statements. 2, we remove street types. And I'll go into more detail about all of these, but previously we separated nodes by street types, and we figured there was not enough context and differentiation between street types, so we eliminated that regulating factor. The third one was to add a third site type C, and this is really to provide for more flexibility in terms of the context of where the site is, and I'll go into a lot more detail about site type C in a second. We added a process to modify the regulating plan. There was a process already, but it relates to all the form-based districts, but we created a process just for neighborhood nodes and how you modify the regulating plan for neighborhood nodes alone. We updated and really removed a few of the building forms for neighborhood node allowances, and those were the I think it was F and E, which are just significantly allowed for significantly large buildings that really aren't appropriate neighborhood nodes, were never intended for neighborhood nodes, and really should be limited to Big Beaver and Maple Road types of sites. And lastly, how our current ordinance is written with form-based districts, all 3 types of form-based districts, whether Maple Road, Big Beaver, or nodes, all are regulated by one use table. Well, I can tell you the land uses in Big Beaver are much different in terms of what we want and what we would accept than what they are necessarily in Maple Road and neighborhood nodes. So we broke out and created a separate use table just for neighborhood nodes that focuses on the uses that we think are appropriate for the nodes. And as part of that, the large focus was eliminating all audio-oriented uses, and lastly, eliminating incompatible uses. So again, updated the intent statement to reflect the master plan, reinforced neighborhood nodes are small-scale mixed-use environments to encourage walkability, public space, active to ground floor, and context-sensitive design. And again, really talked about compatibility with adjacent single-family neighborhoods. We removed street types. We just felt through the process there was not enough contextual difference between the various street types that it was a necessary regulating factor. So we took it out. So we only are regulating by site types. With regard to site types, right now there are 2 site types. There's site type A, which are directly on major arterial roads and have a larger acreage than site type B. Because they're larger, they typically allow for more density and intensity, and most often they're corner parcels. We also have a site type B, and these are a transitional location between larger lots like site type A and adjacent properties, typically residential properties. They're intended to be for more transitional use and they're less intensity. The issue is it's either A or B in neighborhood nodes, and there's a lot of contextual differences throughout the neighborhood nodes that we have identified. A node on Walls Road is different than a node on Long Lake, there's a different node on River Noe, etc. So the purpose was to add a third site type that really provided a lot of context and flexibility for when we remap these nodes to add for more context for where we're trying to design the nodes to fit in with this intent statement I talked about. So we added a new site type, it's site type C. These are smaller sites. Typically right now they're only improved with a single family home, and they're typically adjacent to single family residential. Their purpose is a residential focus. So we are allowing single family detached and 2-family attached duplex, and a special use would be a multifamily. So there may be cases where these smaller sites could consider a multifamily use. However, you as a planning commission would review it on a case-by-case basis through a special use to determine if that's appropriate or not. In addition, there are certain neighborhood compatible uses that may be appropriate. An office building. Typically an office building is appropriate transitional land use between higher intensity use and a lower intensity single family use. But there are certain special uses like a commercial could potentially work next to in these smaller parcels, or service use. But again, this allows the planning commission on a case-by-case basis to review that use to make sure it's appropriate. All right, I'm gonna stop there. Planning commission, our steering committee, is there anything I missed with regards to adding site type C and kind of crafting some of these uses to fit with that site type?
Go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
Can you go back to slide number 1?
This one?
Yeah, and it says over-reliance on residential-only development. It's not that we thought residential is bad, but when developers come in, as we've seen, they try to use that, oh, there's a neighborhood node, let me put as much residential intensity there as possible. And our concern was, well, that's not what the neighborhood nodes were intended. So.
And I'll get to that a little bit later. So the larger sites, we're not allowing residential only
Right.
projects. We're requiring mixed use or commercial projects on these larger sites because that is the purpose of what the neighborhood nodes are. It's not necessarily to add more residential per se, it's to add more of a mix of uses. You can do residential, but it's gotta be a mixed use context. So that's what that was meant by over-reliance on residential.
Thank you.
I think that's a good summary so far.
Okay. So I kind of went over this. So these all work together. You've got the site types that works with the tables and that works with the use groups, and they all are kind of a puzzle that work together. So the current use table includes both site type and street type, as I noted. However, we are recommending elimination of the street type. So now we're going to be regulating by 3 types: site type A, site type B, and site type C, and that's it. As I noted, the use groups now use the same categories as Big Beaver and Maple Road. It didn't recognize some of the contextual differences in the nodes. So we are, again, proposing to add a separate use table just for the neighborhood nodes. So again, create a neighborhood node table just for the nodes. Do the unique category, it allows for more nuance. And also, the new table will allow us to incorporate site type C, which is a new category that we didn't have. It follows the basic intent of zoning. Follow your master plan 1, make what you want easier to do, and make what you don't want or what has potential impacts harder to do, or have it reviewed by planning commission on a case-by-case basis. So that's what we did with the use table. So what you'll see here is what we did is we added a 3rd site type here on the right-hand side. So again, largest lots, typically at the corners, allow for the largest development, such as office, mixed use, multifamily residential is a mixed use project, retail. Larger sites, more intensity. Smaller sites, yet these are not transitional sites per se, but they are slightly smaller sites than site type A, allow for a little bit more intensity than site type C, but a little bit less than site type A. Again, these are permitted uses here. And then lastly, site type C, which are those smaller sites, allow single-family residential as a special use, allow residential 1-family and attached 2-family as a permitted use. But again, the uses that may be appropriate in certain cases, but may not, do allow the planning commission to review on a site-by-site, case-by-case basis.
Does the table make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Should we run through an example, or is everyone good?
I get it.
Okay.
Is there on site type C, for offices?
It's
Is that a typo?
It's not
Okay.
supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question on that, but I don't know, is this the time for the questions?
Is it on this table?
Yeah.
Probably the right time.
Okay, so for site type B, a number 7 mixed use, we put P, permitted. But why then on site type A, would it be permitted / special use?
So we went there. So basically what this is saying is, under 3, mixed use includes a vertical or horizontal mix of permitted use. If one of the proposed mix of uses requires a special use, then the mixed use development requires special use. If you look at site type A, miscellaneous is a special use. So if you mix miscellaneous with residential multifamily, that would require a special use.
Got it.
Okay.
I-
P mixed use, because there's no special use, that provision of P/S doesn't apply. So the only reason you would require a special use in site type A for mixed use is if you have one of these miscellaneous, which is in the use table I'll talk about in a second. Is that?
Yeah, and I even read the footnote and I still couldn't figure it out. So thank you for the reminder. I remember now us talking
Well,
about
that's not good if you can't figure it out and you read it, so maybe I need to clean that up somehow.
No one else seemed to, I think I was overthinking it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Is this for the master plan?
This is zoning ordinance.
So it's zoning ordinance, not master plan?
No, so we went through the master plan, and we had that process that took us a pretty long time to get to, adopted by the council, and then since that, we want to codify the zoning ordinance to meet what the intent and purpose of what we had put in the master plan.
And then is it part of what you're doing here is this based off of best practices that Carlisle has done before in other
And a lot-
cities
well-
and internationally, nationally, whatever? I mean, is this?
Yeah, this is best, I mean, I think the best practice is we've had this in place now for 10 to 15 years. We've learned experiences and we're applying what we've learned into the new language.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Sorry. Yes. What does miscellaneous generally stand for? Can you give me one or two examples?
It's in that use table, there's under 6. It's all types of uses that couldn't fit into
Oh,
one
right. Okay, got it.
category.
Got
So
it.
it's miscellaneous is actually the same terminology we use in the existing zoning ordinance. And I
It's
have,
also in a handout in front of you.
yeah.
Towards the bottom.
Oh, right, thank
So
you.
it's places of worship, fitness, gym centers, theaters, places of assembly, indoor commercial recreation. So you'll see those are special use because those are typically very intense land uses that have potential impacts on adjacent properties. Traffic, light, noise, odor, all those sorts of things. That's why it's a special use for only big sites.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay, so create notable nodes, eliminate large intense uses. So what you'll see is in our current ordinance, all these uses on the left are potential uses you could have in a neighborhood node, whether it be permitted or special. I think, and when we went and did this work with the steering committee, that many of these uses are just not appropriate for neighborhood nodes, either for market purpose, size of parcel purpose, and potential, adjacent property purposes. So for example, a metal plating facility, plastic facility, printing. And again, I think the reason is when this was first done, this use table applied for all form-based districts. So yeah, a metal plating facility may be appropriate on Maple Road. Probably not on Big Beaver, but definitely not in neighborhood nodes. And so by creating a separate use table, getting rid of uses that we do not think are appropriate allows us to focus on the uses that we do think are appropriate. So we did remove all these particular uses, but then we added a single-family detached use. So that was a long discussion of the steering committee. The reason we did it, and this only again applies to site type C, is there may be particular circumstances where there's either an existing lot or a vacant lot that's really small, it's a transition, it's next to single family. There may be unique cases where we think a single family home in there would be appropriate. We had a lot of debate about the steering committee with this, and we felt that on a case-by-case basis, again, that there may be cases where single family is appropriate in a site type C, adjacent to, kind of on the periphery of a neighborhood node. Is there anything you want to add on that steering committee? No, okay. So you'll see this use table that we've added is much leaner, I think much cleaner, but it does permit a wide variety of uses, everything from single-family detached to one-family attached, all the way to multifamily, office, retail, and again, it's miscellaneous uses and mixed use. So there is, again, still a wide range of uses, but not the impactful uses that we're currently permitted in the
And
Yep.
maybe it's a simple question, but if we removed all these specific uses and have a new vocabulary, is there anything in this proposal which bars any type of specific development?
Well, it would, I'm not sure it would bar a specific development, it would bar all of these types of uses. Now, these uses could go somewhere else in the city, under either the Big Beaver, Maple Road, or other zoning districts, but these uses would not be permitted in the neighborhood nodes moving forward.
Let's take a plating plant. Where, if anywhere, might that fit?
You can still do it in Big Beaver, you can still do it in Maple Road, and you can still do it in the IB districts.
Okay.
Yeah, so these uses, we're not taking these uses from the ordinance, totally. I mean, not taking from the total ordinance itself, we're taking it from the neighborhood node allowances.
Okay.
So they remain in the ordinance as they're currently constituted, just not in the ordinance.
And I don't believe we're creating any nonconformities by doing this. There may be one that I don't see, but we're not creating a major problem for the city by doing this.
I also want to note that in the use group table, the uses that remain are the same language and definitions as what exists. So we're not changing the name of them and we're not changing the definitions. They are what currently exists. We simply just removed uses from that list.
Hey Ben, there is one thing, veterinary clinic shows up on both, removed and in use group.
I'll look at that one.
Yeah.
Any questions on this change?
Mr. Lambert?
Just one is, and it may sound peculiar to people, remove primary, secondary schools private, but we have no control over public schools.
Correct. They're exempt from zoning, so they could locate, a public school could locate in the nodes and we would have no
Anywhere
authority
they
on
want
that.
to, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So, again, it's really important that you can't look at this or this in isolation. They have to work together. And so what this table does, and I'm not sure if many of the plan commissioners actually work this table. This is something that we do daily and developers do, but you with the plan commission may not have that familiarity with it. But basically what happens is every site type then lists the permitted uses that you're allowed to do. So for site type A, again, bigger sites, we allow a multitude of uses, including a special use of miscellaneous, which these are those large impactful uses that we talked about. But all the use group 5 are permitted, so financial institutions, general retail, restaurants, etc. All the office uses are permitted, and residential multifamily is permitted as it's part of a mixed-use project. So again, it gets to these corner parcels that are large parcels. We want more intensity of development there, but the intensity of development should be these either mix of uses or these more commercial uses that we're intending to happen. Site type B is a site type between A and B in terms of intensity and uses. So again, it does allow for a multitude of uses, but it doesn't allow these large impactful uses that we're talking about.
So you referenced, when you were just explaining everything, the idea that the multifamily would be connected to a mixed-use development. Would that be specified on the table to the right, that it needs to be connected to a mixed-use development for group 3?
So site type A.
Or is that the asterisk?
Asterisk 2 says permitted only as part of a mixed-use development.
Okay, learning to read it, gotcha.
And then the other thing I wanted to really talk about is we eliminated all auto uses. In addition, just to double down on that to make sure people understood no auto uses, we also put that drive-through uses are not permitted in this. So someone may say, well, I want to do a pharmacy, which would go under general retail, but I need a drive-through. This would not permit a drive-through even for a pharmacy. That may be a permitted use.
Go ahead, Ms. Mullen.
So what if somebody combines lots? Can they move from a type C to a type B?
Yes, so that's under the, and you can do that now. Under the current ordinance, you can do that now. The planning commission has the authority to, it's called modify a regulating plan. And there are certain standards that the planning commission considers. One of them is additional area. So if you take one lot and come out with another, the planning commission can reclassify that lot and make it a different site type. But that's done through public hearing. It's done by the planning commission.
I see. Okay, yeah, thanks.
And that wouldn't be a rezoning, it would just be a reclassification.
Correct. If you're amending the boundaries of the node, if you're adding parcels that were not currently in the node into the node, that considers a rezoning. If you're just changing the site types within an existing already established node, that's considered a reclassification and it's done by the planning commission. that's how the ordinance is currently, that's how it's been written for 15 years. That has not changed. What we've changed a little bit is we've updated the process of how you change the regulating thing in terms of a public hearing requirement.
We made it more transparent.
Yeah. And Brent, how many reclassifications have we done here?
1 or 2.
Yeah, this has not been very many. Any other questions? And then again, site type C, smaller sites, it does allow a detached as a special use. Planning Commission would consider that. But then allows residential, attached or 2 families permitted, and then everything else is a special use.
Go ahead.
Ben, what about heights? Is type C going to be pretty similar in terms of height to type A or B?
So we talked about the height issue of the steering committee, and we landed on keeping the height where it currently is listed. So if it's parcel, now this doesn't have to do with site type. It basically says if a parcel, regardless of its site type, is adjacent to a single-family residential, it's capped. If it's not adjacent, it's 3 stories. So it does not relate necessarily to site type. It relates more to proximity or adjacency to residential. Now, typically a site type A, which are larger sites, aren't adjacent to residential, but there may be cases where they are. So we did not distinguish, but height by the type is distinguished by its location and proximity to residential.
Got it, thanks.
And that was a conscious decision by the steering committee to keep it that way.
Oh, and based on the master plan.
I'm almost done. And then lastly, we have recommended amending the building forms. Because we didn't have a single-family detached building form already in our nodes, we had to add it for site type C, so we added it for site type C. We make it a special building form in site type C. And then we've eliminated D, E, and F from the site types in the nodes. D, E, and F are the typical type of site building forms you would see on Big Beaver or Maple Road. They're large sites with large buildings that, we talk about anchor uses and such. They're really not intended to be in the nodes. So we've eliminated those building forms from the nodes to be more of a scale of the neighborhood.
And question, maybe this is not the right place to ask it. But if we've got new nodes coming in now, and we've always said it's not strictly by a foot or an inch, it's a general concept in this. If you've got a builder with 2 lots, one in each of different nodes, what do you do in a case like that?
So I'm going to answer 2 parts to that. One, we are not adding nodes. We're keeping those the same. We're actually proposing to eliminate
7, I think.
7 nodes.
No, I assume we're keeping the nodes.
Yeah.
But if you've got 2 different nodes with different intents in these nodes, and you've got a developer who has got a half acre or something slopped over into another node that doesn't necessarily reflect what he wants to do. Is that a special use, or how do you handle that?
So every node is its own intersection, so no nodes really would overlap with each other. If there are nodes, if there are parcels that are on the periphery of a node, and someone wants to add a parcel to that through a development or something like that, that would constitute a rezoning. And the Planning Commission would have the authority to review that, under your authority to review a rezoning, and then have a public hearing and make a recommendation. So again, if you're adding parcels to the node, it's a rezoning. If a developer within the node, to the earlier question, if they have 2 parcels and they want to combine them for a development reason, they can go through the modification process. And you as a planning commission, again, have the authority to modify a site type based on specific factors.
So I think as I understood Mr. Hudson's question, it was the latter, where it's in the same node, but they're different site types.
Yeah.
And so they potentially reclassify the site types and combine the site types through that reclassification.
One second. Oops. So again, right now we have 6 building forms, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Our proposal is to get rid of D, E, and F and create a new just a new single-family and two-family residential building type, because we don't really have that currently in the zoning ordinance. Okay, I think that's it. So the next step would be, based on tonight's discussion, clean up any language questions you may have. I didn't go into necessarily like line by line through the change of the ordinance, so I can do that if you have specific questions. I want to give more a high-level view. But I'm open to any questions and any feedback on the language. Then after that, we would come back and present you the map amendment. So we actually went node by node, parcel by parcel, identifying each of the different site types, A, B, and C. Spent a lot of time on that. We present that back to the Planning Commission. And then once the Planning Commission is comfortable with those changes, we would then come back for a public hearing and then move it on to City Council. So again, this is the first in a couple meeting steps to move this forward, but I want to make sure that you all understand kind of contextually the big picture of what the steering committee considered.
Did I miss something? Did we not do 5.06C-3?
Yeah, remind the 5.06.
I mean, it's not even on this, but it's like on page 30 of the agenda packet. It's building forms permitted.
I just went over that.
Where?
Who's this?
Okay.
Ben,
Yep.
if we assume that all this is going to be approved by City Council,
Yep.
taking a look at the Square Lake and Livernois site, which we approved, how do they interact if we had a new code versus what we did at Square Lake and Livernois?
You're talking about those giant apartment, 4-story buildings?
I was talking about, whatchamacallit, the developer who gave about 3 different versions of a site plan.
Gary Abatheras?
Yes.
Yeah, so that one-
Hastings.
Hastings, so that one went in front of Planning Commission for a public hearing. They made a recommendation, has not gone to City Council yet. No, PUD got denied. They came back with a conditional rezoning, conditioning on number of units, et cetera. I think there's 3 residents here, so if I'm talking out of the side of my mouth, they'll correct me. But it got support from the neighbors because he kept the height down, kept the units down, listened to the neighbors and kind of. So that hasn't been rezoned, it hasn't been approved yet, is my point.
Okay, so, I just forgot what I was going to ask.
How would it comply with the current
No,
changes?
how would it compare? Would there be some, let me rephrase that. Would there be some things that we approved in that site plan approval that would not fly with the proposed amendments we're talking about tonight?
I don't believe so, but let me use that same intersection since we have 3 residents that live up there. I'm sure they're curious. So if you're looking, we all know that intersection quite well. On the northwest corner, there's a large retail plaza where it's L-shaped and there's a big parking field in front and plaza behind. Now it's viable. It's got some good stores in there. It's well maintained, etc. But it's been there a long time. Theoretically, if the price is right, the owner could sell under today's no provisions. They could put a gas station and a car wash there. Now it's special use approval. They have to go in front of this board, but they could potentially have a large gas station with a car wash and a drive-through restaurant on that site today. We're eliminating those automotive-oriented uses. One of the things that the master plan calls for is that area becoming more walkable, more of a place, more of a neighborhood type place. We're proposing changes to that node to be in keeping with the master plan that calls for that. So that's one example.
All right, well, let me restate it if I can then. Is there something that we approved based upon our zoning ordinances and hearings on that parcel that would not be approved if we adopted all these proposals on nodes?
Well, there's an existing gas station on the southwest corner that wouldn't be permitted.
Gary's project specific.
Gary's project.
Yeah,
I don't believe so.
okay.
Because of the way it's laid out, with preserving the single-family homes, and I don't believe so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Coming back to that question that Commissioner Hudson brought in, I thought about the South Boulevard gas station. that gas station as submitted to us was not just as a gas station. It was submitted to us as a quote-unquote food place, a restaurant, also encouraging walkability as much as cars can get fueled at that station. How would that be interpreted based on the current table that we have?
It would not be permitted. Right.
Is that a node?
It's no.
It is, yeah.
And the steering committee had to, again, I'll speak for them, but please correct me if I'm wrong, had to draw a line somewhere. And the applicant for that did a really nice job designing a gas station at that location. That it's hard to do that in nodes and do it well. And so the planning commission the steering committee felt that for the most part, automobile uses just were not appropriate in the nodes, regardless of how well they were designed. So they simply just took them out from the use table.
So, sorry if I may ask a follow-up to that. So is there going to be a clear language somewhere present, or just the users will specify that we won't have any car wash, we won't have any gas fueling stations?
Yeah, so it does in two ways. One, it says simply, there's a note in here that says, where is it? No, drive-throughs or uses aren't permitted, so a lot of audio-oriented uses have drive-throughs. Two, we have how zoning works. If it's expressly not permitted, it's then not allowed. So by not having those uses in the table, you're simply saying they're just not allowed.
Okay.
And all automobile uses would cover that, I would assume.
Well, we're taking it out. So you see that those are all gone. So you see in the use list table, there's no auto-oriented type of uses in there. They're just eliminated.
Mr. Fox.
I guess, so I have a comment and then a question. First off, on the comment, I, for one, am in agreement with the steering committee that I completely agree on removing auto-centric uses. I think the neighborhood nodes, in order for them to become walkable, we need to discourage uses that bring in tons of cars and there's driving on the lot and all that. So I'm a big fan of that decision from the committee. My question was, I want to make sure I'm understanding properly. So use group 2 is the 1 family attached and 2 family. And then on the third table, it's just listed 2 family residential. So I guess I just want C2.
It's mislabeled though, guys. So you give us these tables. The first one is C2. The C1 is the use groups permitted, and then the building forms permitted is C3. And up on the screen, it's
so then it would be.
That's why I got confused. I didn't know where C3 went. It's just mislabeled.
Then it would be C3 that I guess is where I have my question.
Is it the table? This table?
Yes.
That should be C3.
So it says 2 family residential, but then on the previous tables it says attached. I guess could you define 2 family residential for me?
It's a duplex.
Okay. And is it just explicitly duplexes? Because I also see attached single family.
So attached single family is typically 3 or more.
Okay.
And a duplex is a 2-family residential.
Okay. Because I guess the reason my ears perk up is I know that duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, like they're brought up in the context of missing middle.
Yep.
And I think, we have an opportunity to try to put in missing middle housing in the nodes, so
And we got it. I mean, it's allowed.
Yeah.
You're allowed in B, you're allowed in C. Again, I want to go back to the point we know we need more housing.
Yeah.
There's a consensus that we need more housing. I'll just leave it at that. We're not saying you can't do residential, especially in B and C. You've got permitted uses of residential everywhere. You can still do an A, but again, it's got to be part of a mixed-use development. So the intent is to get mixed use on these larger parcels, and so that's why we're pushing it in A. But in B, you can do, all these different types of residential, all is a permitted use.
Yeah, but to clarify, I like that it's being included in C. I like that it's being included in C. I like that it's being included in B. That's, I guess, why I wanted to just make sure I understood it properly, because I do like that a lot.
Can I jump in real quick, Tyler? Just because I feel like there's a discrepancy between this single-family residential C, it's permitted. Then if you go to our table 5.06 C1, it says special use, it says S.
Yeah, there is this because we have differentiated between building form types and use types. So the use of single family is a special use. But if you get approval for that, to build a single-family home is a permitted building form. And and it's a little nuance in zoning, and basically what we say in single-family building form is you have to follow, I think it's R1E dimensional requirements. So.
Okay, and I remember we actually talked about that. Thank you for reminding me of that. Tyler, Mr. Fox, were you done?
Yeah.
I have, can you, while we're looking at this screen, can you remind me, what is a single-purpose outbuilding?
Like a typical outlot building that may be like a retail building or an office building. You know, one use outlot building.
Okay,
So a mattress store, a cell phone store,
got it, okay.
a Qdoba.
Yeah,
Chipotle,
just like a
those are-
standalone, okay. And then the live work is not permitted in A on, you see that?
Yep.
But if it's a but it is if it's multi-story, because in D, like, I guess what I'm saying is live work to me is just another way of saying mixed use, isn't it?
No, live work technically is a different type of mixed use. My professional opinion is it's a planner's pipe dream that has never come to fruition. A planner's pipe dream has never come to fruition. Basically, it's a merchant has their store on the bottom floor and they live on the top floor of it. I've never seen that ever happen before. You know, Birmingham pushed this for a while in their Eaton Street district.
It's not far from here if anyone wants to go, and it has not been successful, I would say.
So it is a mixed use, but it's a very specific type of mixed use.
Okay, so in other words, so it's fine.
If you want me to remove, if you say, Ben, please remove the term live work, I would totally fine with it.
I mean,
I'd leave it in as an option. I know a lot of those situations in Hamtramck where they have the store on the bottom. My uncle and aunt lived on the, in the house above.
But do they work in that store?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So I think the concept's great. I think the concept 100 years ago worked great. I don't think it works. And
Shoe cobbler.
It doesn't work in 2025. It's not going to work here. We talked about this at length with the subcommittee. We had the exact same conversation. 4 people said leave it in. We left it in. You said take it out. I'd gladly take it out.
And then I have to be reminded of the stupid conversation. I'm sorry, but you're right. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem.
I tell you what, if anyone can show me live work that's fully leased and fully functioning the way it was intended anywhere in North America, I'll eat my words.
All right.
yeah, after the meeting.
We'll look it up for them.
Okay, so I'm almost done with my questions, but I do have one more. Page 24 of the agenda packet. I didn't know how else to find it. It's kind of a two-question.
Okay, I gotta open up the PowerPoint.
And I'm sure we've talked about it, so sorry in advance, but
24?
page 24, yeah. And when I say 24, I mean of the agenda. Yeah, right there. Put it 24 right there. Okay, so go to standards. Okay, number 4. So outdoor space patio must be provided. Patio spaces must be adjacent to the semi-basement apartment and directly accessible from within the unit. I know we talked about this, but we are talking about being able to walk outside.
Yeah, this provides for those, I don't know what I call
The basement apartments.
Yeah, they call it semi-basement apartment.
Yes, semi-basement apartments.
We're gonna go with that one.
Like the one we had at John R.
Yeah. So yeah, it has to be accessible. Must be directly adjacent to the semi-basement apartment and directly accessible from within the unit. Yes.
Because I think the ones that we approved on John R. and 17.
They do not comply with this.
Correct.
Yes.
Because they were windows.
They were windows to nowhere.
And so that's why we were specific about that language. I just want to make sure we're specific enough so people who weren't on the committee, I mean, is it clear? Do we have to use the word door versus window? Or when we say it's accessible, is it assuming that you have to be able to walk? Okay, so everyone's good with that. And then the next one is 4C. Patios must include railing of at least 4 feet in height on any side adjacent to other units or public areas. I was a little bit confused because, I mean, if you need a railing, like I'm picturing this sunken in patio, and you have to have a railing to protect people from falling in.
30 units for public area.
This is the opposite. I think it's a building code issue, that the railings that are on top of the open space that may be underground, they have to have a 4-foot railing.
Can I suggest you don't put 4 foot, you just put per
building?
Michigan State building? I don't think it's 4 feet.
What's that?
I don't think it's 4
You
feet.
don't think it's 4 feet?
No, I don't.
Wait, which patios are we talking about here?
If there's an elevation difference from one to another, if it's over 30 inches, you've got to protect it. You've got to have a railing. If it's under 30 inches, you do not have to.
Okay.
So I used the example that for the one that we approved where there was a sunken out area, that required a railing around the top of it based on whatever the building code requirement was.
Because someone could come and fall in.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I just felt that the way it was written, I didn't it made it sound to me like it didn't have to go around the whole thing. It only had to be on the side that was adjacent to other units or public areas.
The building code would catch that.
Okay.
But I don't know why we need to
Even talk
try
about
to, we don't need to overlap. The ordinance is one thing, the building code's another thing.
Yeah, it sounds like a building code thing. Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'll double check the building code and make sure that it's, and I can strike it if it's covered in the building code.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Buechner.
I like where this is going. Where are we with El Car Wash or something like this?
Where are we with El Car Wash?
How would this do with El Car Wash?
Well, it was denied by the planning commission. It's in litigation right now.
Would this allow it to happen?
No, it was prohibited.
It's auto-oriented use.
So if we pass this before that comes back to us?
I don't know.
It's okay. Just speaking freely here amongst us.
Yeah, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to speak freely right now.
Okay. There's an attorney next to you.
Mr. Muncy will, I'll defer to him if he wants to say any more. If not, we move on. No?
Mr. Lambert.
Is this the appropriate time to talk about the one issue the steering committee kicked to the full planning commission about setbacks?
Yes,
Well, it's more than setbacks. It's
Thank you for the
setbacks.
introduction.
Is it building entrance? Is that what you're talking about?
No, we're talking about setbacks between residential and not residential developments in the
Remember, we
neighborhood. I've got a good talk
couldn't
about that whenever we get around to it.
Well, Ms. Prex, do you have, I think you had any more points and then,
Okay, so all right, so the one other point, I forgot about the setbacks. So for me, it was the only other point that we did not, as a steering committee, ever come to consensus on was the primary entrance issue that appears on page, I use the number for the red line. Okay, so it's basically page 22. So, as everyone recalls, for many years, this has been a source of issues when we're trying to approve various things where we're requiring a primary entrance with the language, that it's facing a right-of-way or whatever. So we had extensive conversation on that, but I don't believe that we set forth a revised definition for that. My request would be to allow us a little bit more time to come back with verbiage that we think corrects the problem, and we can present it and discuss it at that time, unless people who are not on the steering committee want to weigh in now and have the conversation. Mr. Box.
Well, I understand the importance of having some level of a definition. I do think that with, and maybe the planning office can help me out because I don't have the neighborhood node current ordinance memorized. The goal is to be closer to the street with the neighborhood nodes, right? Not as set back away from the road. Because I guess my thought is like your primary entrance is ultimately going to look different if the goal is to be a bit closer to the road, like you're at the sidewalk as opposed to being sunk back in a parking lot. So I feel like adjusting the primary entrance or the way that we define that to include the idea that people are parking behind the building and entering from the back of the building, and that's the primary entrance as opposed to the primary entrance being on the front, facing the road, which isn't there. Because I can think of some developments that I feel like put like a commercial, like a visible front entrance because of this, but then ultimately it was like the rear entrance is the one that people are going to use because that's where the parking lot is.
Mr. Fox, let me just stop you for one second,
go ahead, please.
because I remember that conversation, and to be fair, that's exactly right, we had that conversation. But the concern for me is when we're trying to use that for residential. It's not for businesses.
Multi-family housing.
So the language would actually try to, see, as you see, item C says residential dwellings, which to me begs the question of why are we applying the primary entrance language to residential? I think it reads that we should exclude it. So where it came into, caused issues was when townhomes or condos or whatever are in the node and then they're trying to face the main roads, and then there's doors facing walls in some instances. So it's meant to clean that up. I understand that when you're in a node and on Big Beaver, we're gonna have, and we're right up to the road, we have doors that aren't always used. I accept that. I mean, so that is what I wanna clean up, is applying that primary entrance language to residential. Yes.
How important is it for us to tell them where the primary entrance is on a residential development?
I mean, right now, we're requiring them to be right on the primary road, and I don't think it makes sense.
I don't think that needs to be in there personally. I think the primary entrance will be as the development is developed, depending how that site is laid out. Because we've seen developments where the primary entrance is neither on the parking lot side nor on the road side, but it's between the buildings. So there's a gap between buildings, so you go between the gap and you get into your units that way. So I don't know that, I guess I'm just curious, how important is it for us to define where that primary, I think the developer or the architect, whoever's doing the project, is going to put the primary entrance where it's most beneficial to their potential customers or their potential tenants.
I mean, the thing is the zoning ordinance and every single different district defines exactly, has a primary entrance definition. So this is no different.
I understand,
And
but
it
we're
already
talking about
is in there.
residential. We're not talking about commercial, because we've talked about on Big Beaver pulling buildings, getting the parking
Right.
lots off the main street, pulling
Right.
the buildings, and that's been a headache for developers. Because now we're on the front, we're on Big Beaver, and people expect to come in, the primary entrance on Big Beaver, we park back there, we got to walk between buildings or sides, and then come back in, as opposed to walking into the building from the parking lot. But I think from residential, I think it's a different animal. I think residential the primary entrance will find its place on a residential property.
Right, and that's why we gotta clean up the language, because right now,
I have no problem with cleaning up the language.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to, personally, I don't think we need to tell the developer where the primary entrance needs to be on a residential development.
okay, but right now it does, so that's what we're talking about. Right now.
I'm giving you my opinion.
I know, I'm just saying, right now.
I understand
the
what you're saying, I
language
read
is-
it,
Yeah,
but I
okay.
don't think that's necessary.
Okay, so you'd be in favor of removing it?
I would be.
Okay, good to know. Yep,
Yeah, I guess just for the record, I'd be in favor of removing it as well. I think it makes sense.
okay. Yep,
Just a question for our planning experts, are there any drawbacks to removing that language?
I think that that a tenet of the neighborhood node district is that the building relates to the street. And I think if we, and I understand Mr. Tate's point, but if we don't, if we think that it's important for for the lack of a better term, the nice side, the main side of the part, the main facade of the building, the front Big Beaver, or excuse me, the front street, and to be in close proximity to the street, if that's what we intend, and I think that is, then we should have some type of language in there that requires a certain type of relationship, whatever that may be. Now, I'll admit that non-residential is different than residential. Like transparency and being able to see activity If you're commercial, we want people to see eyes inside to see the activity. If it's residential, you're affecting their privacy. So we have a requirement in commercial that there be at least 50% glass. In residential, they're gonna pull the curtains, and at night there's gonna be zero glass. So it's counter to what we're trying to achieve in residential. It's a very long-winded way of me saying that residential and non-residential are different, and maybe we need a different approach for both. One of the things that we talked about in the subcommittee meeting with the 4 of planning commission members was we had an applicant who was kicking the tires potentially on having the patios face the road. And patios are not an entrance that is intuitively, I'm gonna go visit Tom at his house and go through the patio. I'm not gonna do that, it's a patio. I'm gonna go around to the front door. Well, the front door doesn't face the road, so that's not the primary entrance. So it's an important issue because, again, we've been for 15 years have been requiring this primary entrance, and I think we're just trying to figure out what's best moving forward.
So the point there would be to not require developers to create a patio with a door to try to comply with this definition that doesn't really suit residential. So it's to fix it up so we're not making developers do things that we don't even want, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, Mr. Paisley.
I agree with everything you said, but Brent, it seemed like you were saying something different, though.
If we let developers do what we want, we're gonna get a lot of patios facing the road. And if a majority of planning commission doesn't care about that,
Is the front door on the main road, is that a carryover from single-family residential? Because that's all you see. I'm on the street, my front door is off the street. I don't know, I just don't, and you said something, Brent, that I don't know that I totally am on board with. The front side of the building or the street side of it. When you're talking about a residential development, and if you're pushing your building to the front property line, your backside of your building better not look like the backside of the building. I think the building as a whole has to be an attractive element.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever you enter that massing or that building, I guess personally, I would think that would be the last place I'd want to enter it is off the main street. I would want to enter it the shortest distance from a parking, where I'm parking, to get into the building.
So if you think of townhomes are typically 2.5 stories high. The first half of the first floor is dedicated to parking. So it makes sense that the garage side doesn't face the street. The primary entrance. We all agree that that's the primary entrance because that's the door you knock on. And
right.
Typically there's 3 steps or 2 steps to the main door. It's very formal primary entrance, no question. Now we had an application that was pending a few months ago that we talked about with the subcommittee meeting, where on the main entrance to the unit had a primary door, formal entry door, and next to it was the garage. And the back side, the patio side, was facing the road. And that was, when you drove down the major road, you saw patios. And again, the requirement in the node, or the intent of the node, was someone walking down the sidewalk to walk up to the unit, that's an entry where guests would come in. But with patios, and they also wanted fences, decorative fences, so you couldn't access the patio. So now there's virtually no relationship with the road. Because functionally, you're gonna have to be forced to go around and your entrance is on.
Are you assuming that the person coming to the residence is walking from down the street, down the public way?
Potentially, that's one of the goals of the nodes
Well, that's something I want to bring up with the whole team. When these nodes first came up, how many years ago? 10 years, 15 years ago?
The concept was 2008, and we implemented it through zoning in 2011.
Okay. When this concept first came up, my mindset was we wanted to serve the surrounding neighborhoods. What we've seen over the years, there's no way. Because what happens is behind the node is a backyard. There's nobody going to come from the residential unless they go out to the public way or get in their car. And that's another thing. We talk about auto-centric. All of these things are auto-centric. Nobody's going to walk from the neighborhood to any of these uses. I would really doubt. Maybe there will be some. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands. These nodes, although they serve the neighborhood, it's an auto-driven neighborhood, or an auto-driven accessibility to these things. So we need to take that into consideration. This is not a walkable. I mean, once you get in the node, can I walk from this store to this store, or from this building to that? Yeah, maybe, just like you do anywhere else. So these nodes, in theory, aren't really, at least in my understanding when we first created the nodes, how they were going to serve the adjacent neighborhoods. They really don't serve it that way. All we're saying is we're putting uses or things you'd go to closer to where you live. So you get out of your car, or you get in your car, you drive out on the main road, you drive around to get in the parking lot. I mean, I don't remember a development that we ever were able to, we've talked about it, can we go between these two properties? But no, people don't give up their people don't want people walking between their houses. We've had projects like that, and residents came up and said, no, we don't want anybody walking between our homes. So, again, I just want to say that because I think the initial concept of the nodes was to serve the community in a more walkable way. And I don't know that that node really accomplishes that.
Mr. Carlisle, I think you wanted to say something.
Well, Mr. Daigle, I mean, I think that's kind of why we're here doing this exercise, is because I think we've recognized that it's not happened.
Oh, I guess I didn't hear that, Brad. I guess when you talk about walkability for these nodes, you're talking about internal walkability within the nodes. You're not talking about serving the community with walkability or the adjacent residents.
I think the intent is to serve the adjacent community through walkability.
Tell me how that happens in a node. I've never seen it.
7-Eleven is a prime example.
7-Eleven at Crooks and Wiles?
Yeah, I've seen kids on bikes. A lot of kids on bikes.
And that's I think the concern is we've gotten so much residential in these nodes that it doesn't lend itself to walkability because people aren't going to walk to the residential per se. Commercial, like a 7-Eleven, people walk to. I think if we put...
I would challenge that. Yes, there are kids on bikes that'll go there. Most of the time, there are people in cars that go there. I'll bet you if you took a survey, it's not the kids on the bike that are the majority of users.
Of course not, Mr. Dale, but that doesn't mean that the intent of these is to create these environments that are walkable with mix of uses.
Well, if the intent is not being successful, I question the intent.
Mr. Sabadan.
And maybe it was a bit of a happy accident, but if you look at how the genesis and then how the transformation of Crooks and Waddles, the 7-Eleven piece. So 7-Eleven came first on the corner, convenience retail obviously, and then an office and a small restaurant abutting that to the south of it, and then behind it, numerous apartment buildings. That wasn't one mixed-use development, but over 10 years, it was developed as a mixed use where I'm pretty confident people from the apartment building are walking to the dentist and to the, and
the node is large enough, yes, to accommodate that.
And the goal, if you would have asked me in 2011, I naively would have thought that would have been one development where it was developed as a mixed use, where you had a developer who did all that at once, but it did evolve into kind of into horizontal mixed use that I think is probably going to work very well, going to work pretty well over time. And then when the southwest corner gets developed, whenever, I mean, there's a pending application, people will be walking across the street and shopping at 7-Eleven and going to the dentist and et cetera, it's kind of the goal. Now, are we Manhattan? No, we're not.
Well, and again, I guess the other comment on that, as far as the nodes, we've never really defined the edges of the nodes. We draw these circles around these intersections, and we've always talked about, well, where is that edge? This particular example you're giving is a good example where that might work. There are many nodes that will never work. And I guess want to recognize that.
Yeah, there's some, no two properties are the same, no two nodes are the same.
Right.
And there's challenges and opportunities. They vary from node to node, for sure, for sure.
Ms. Malala Holly.
On that note, I would like to say that it was a nice surprise to see at Troy Corners just a couple weeks back. A lot of kids had biked to that Subway restaurant there and some other place, and they all were coming out of my subdivision. And yes, they had to cross the Square Lake and they were no intersection, but because of the sidewalks that are there, it felt so good seeing that kids could just get on their bikes from my sub and just go right across Livernois and into that Troy Corners place. So in all honesty, I think we should encourage more of that. That is something that you don't see very often nowadays. So it was nice to see a bunch of 6 to 8 kids doing that. Sometimes I have seen families who have carried some sacks from there, like Orchid Cafe. They take out their dinner or lunch or whatever, and they're walking back to some of the homes just on the other side. It's very encouraging to see that. In all honesty, you're right. Not all nodes will have that for sure, 100%, I agree. But where it is possible, I think we should make it possible. And to the mention that Brent, you made, correct me if I'm wrong, because this has been a while since I went through the tour of these condo complexes that got built right next to Ace Hardware, that section there on Long Lake. I don't think all homes on that particular condo complex or the duplex complex faces the road. Am I correct? There are some that face the inside portion, where there is like a pathway that has been created. So if you were to walk right into that space there, all you see are garages and the first floor balconies. So to Mariana's point, would it be nice to have doors face? Yes. But to Mr. Tegel's point, I do understand developers sometimes find that if they can build a village-like setting and have the outdoors face and a courtyard-like setting where neighbors can see each other or have conversations, will that build in that village community kind of a feel? Yes. So I don't know, I agree with both. So it's a very hard thing for me to agree wholeheartedly to one side as opposed to the other, because I want the developers to be more creative in creating that feel that we want in multifamily housing. I don't want to limit their creativity, but at the same time, I understand the real. I don't want to go into a complex like this where I'm only seeing garages and I'm figuring out where is the front entrance. Oh, the front entrance is to the side, so I need to park the car somewhere there and walk this way to the side, because that's the picture that I have, that I'm seeing. And I remember touring this, and my husband's remark comes to my mind very immediately. He said, "I'm not happy with how close this front entrance area is. It's not very visible." So I just wanted to throw out that as a devil's advocate, I'm seeing value in both points, but at the same time, I also see difficulty in coming to a statement that reads exactly so. My thoughts, yeah.
Mr. Fox.
Thank you. I think I definitely agree with a lot of the points that both Mr. Tegel and Ms. Farakis have made. I think a good example of a corner, I'm not sure if this is a node, Maple and Coolidge?
Maple Road District.
That's it.
Okay, that's Maple Road Farm
Well,
Base.
which corner?
It kind of hits Birmingham, doesn't it? Somerset Park.
The townhomes?
The apartments.
So if it's a southeast corner, that's
Coolidge and Maple?
No, he's looking at the
Northeast?
the northeast corner.
Yeah, where Aldana's is.
No, northeast.
No.
Northeast, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Well, where Aldana's, the restaurant is.
Yeah.
So I lived in, like, right there in those apartments. Like, I lived like a 2.5-minute walk from Aldana's. And the way that those buildings did it is that they had an entrance into the parking lot, and then they had an entrance that went out onto the street. It had both. So I think, to the point, I guess the whole reason we're even talking about this, I think that definition of primary entrance is limiting. I think there's obviously a point to having some kind of clear definition, but I think finding a way to highlight the fact that it doesn't just have to be, like you could have a setup like the one that I had at that intersection where it's like there's an entrance onto the road and then there's also an entrance into the parking lot. Like, I don't know which of those you'd call the primary entrance per this definition. So yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I'm not a planner, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know exactly how to word it, but I can see the point of, I don't want this to limit us to the point where we're stuck with like the same kind of development that's always got the same, primary entrance on the main street. So that's I guess where I'm at with it.
Well, so generally speaking, what these form-based districts, there's three of them, there's Big Beaver, Maplewood, and the Nodes. What they try to do is take kind of the suburban mindset and turn it on its ear. And instead of the primary entrance being facing the parking lot and the automobiles that are parked there, the main entrance faces the road with the building closer to the road so that it encourages more walkability and it strengthens the relationship rather than having a parking lot fronting on the street. It has a building fronting on the street with the parking behind. That works, I think, very well for commercial, the example you cited at Coolidge Maple, Big Beaver, etc. It's more challenging for residential.
So maybe another steering committee to hash out an idea.
Mr. Lambert?
What, as a suggestion, and tell me where the drawbacks are to this. Number one, you raised the concern about, do we want to have patios facing the right-of-way? Can we just say patios cannot face the right-of-way? And that way the developer is encouraged to be a little bit more creative with where the front entrance is. And secondly, I know the one you were talking about next to Trevaro's Hardware, where it's like a doorway and then maybe, I don't know, 3 feet and then a wall. Can we just say there has to be more of a setback from the front entrance to an adjoining property? I'm just throwing those out there for your feedback.
So those are two related but separate issues. One is the relationship of the building to the street, and the other is the relationship of the building to a neighboring property. And in this instance, the residential development that you're citing is next to a large parking lot. So are we protecting the parking lot from the residential, or are we protecting the residential from the parking lot?
The latter.
So the treatment that was used in that instance was a wall. So,
Mr. Faison?
And it seems like that project, that's one we talked about conceptually, things like that. Is that really a street, that interior street? But I want to go back to something you said, which I didn't think about. Patios on the street, right? So would our, absent the language we have there, would our ordinance permit that at some of these node corners that allow single-family residential? Absent the requirement that the primary entrance be on the street?
absent this?
Absent that.
Yes.
And then is there like screening or something like that that's required for that patio? Because I think it just violates the whole concept of what we want that node to look like, if that's the case.
It comes back to that difference between commercial and residential, where the residents want privacy.
Right.
And the commercial wants exposure, yet we're treating them kind of the same way. So maybe we need to go, Ben and I need to go back to the drawing board and maybe we bifurcate residential and commercial, and we come up with a different treatment for each.
Yes.
Good idea.
Yep, that was my suggestion. Yep.
Can we get a show of hands, or so that we're moving in the right direction? Does the I don't need to take the meeting over, but just and I want to respect what Mr. Table talked about with allowing creativity for designers and is it important that we have a primary entrance, like not a patio, primary entrance facing the road?
You want hands or no?
Oh, can I do a show of hands?
Yeah.
For
residential?
Yeah, for residential, is it important that,
No.
No.
I don't think so.
so you're okay with patio?
But where? Like, you're talking about at the corner.
Yeah, you're
of the
oversimplifying, I
Yeah,
think.
right.
I think, like, if we're talking about a multifamily residential, we need the door on the road. We're trying to create the relationship. If we have a single family in a node, then it's not appropriate to have a front door on the main road. It can be the back of the it can be the back, but now with this new thing, you know, the new way we decided with the C and the B and the A, we're not gonna have a residential on the hard corner. But to the extent that they are already in the pipeline and coming through to us, I think that we need to loosen the language to not require front doors of homes on a hard corner of major arterial roads, because that's not what we intended. So there needs to be a little bit of flexibility.
I agree. Case in point, the development that's being proposed for the Crooks and Waddles on the southwest corner, do any of those homes face Crooks or Waddles? Do you remember?
What do you mean by face?
In other words, the front door.
They put a patio door.
They're patios.
Patios are on the
That's how they're getting around this requirement, which is silly, in my opinion.
Okay.
The last rendition I saw.
Yeah. So basically, it's their backyard that faces Crooks Road.
Do we really have to decide the placement of a door tonight?
No.
I think we can move on.
No, I think we're looking just for direction.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
I think the one point that, sorry, man.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think the one point that you made, Brent, that it sounded like the planning commission could agree on is I think bifurcating between commercial and residential is probably a good first step. And then I think that for me personally, I am not enough of a wordsmith to know how to word this. I definitely would appreciate giving you guys a chance to take a look at it and come up with language that you think is appropriate, just to kind of be able to say like yay or nay. Does that make sense?
We've put a lot of thought in this.
Absolutely.
The chair's put a lot of thought into this.
Do we want to come back to the, okay, I think we have enough to go on that we need to work on this.
We need to work on it.
We don't want it to hold up the whole process though,
Yeah.
because we do want to move on and get this to us for a vote, then city council for a vote and get this adopted. So I think the idea will be after this meeting, we'll schedule something, or you guys will work on language and present it to us however we proceed, but we'll address that. And then, Mr. Lambert, you brought something up which maybe we need to throw out here again for a quick discussion.
Yeah, the steering committee could not come up with a definite position on setbacks, and Mr. Krent is the one who brought it up to our attention. So
What
he can.
part is it in?
So I will.
It's on page 24 of our agenda.
I will yield the floor to him.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Setbacks and Greenbelt is the title of the sub-thing.
It's on, I hear it's on 25. 25?
Yep, that's it. Oh,
Yep.
okay, fine. It says, it's for some reason, oh yeah, it is page 25, okay. So, my thought is this, that first number I, or number 1, it says, when a parcel is abutting a one-family residential zone parcel, the building setback from the property line of a one-family residential zone parcel shall be no less than the height of the proposed building, or 20 feet, whichever is greater. Now, my contention is when single-family homes butt a neighborhood node, usually it's the backyards of those homes that butt that neighborhood node district. So I just went down the list from R1A through R1E, the rear yard setbacks for those homes. So these people that build their residential home, it's mandatory that they have these rear yard setbacks. And for R1A and B, it's 45 feet. C is 40 feet, D is 40 feet, and E, the smallest little lots, are 35 feet. So we're saying that commercial building, they can go up to 20 feet. They can go 20 feet next to that property line, and those residents are at 45 or 40 or 35. So I think it's absolutely, the one thing that brings out pitchforks and torches is our residential people that own single-family homes saying, you're building this, two-story building, and they're closer to the property line than I was allowed. That, I think, is an inconsistency. We at least have any development that abuts single-family, they have to at least have the same amount of rear yard setback as that single-family home, not 20 feet. 20 feet is, 20 feet is? 20 feet is an F-150 truck. They vary between roughly 18 feet and 21 feet long. So you're gonna put a pickup truck as a visual measurement that commercial building can be next to homes. That's, I could almost spit that far, almost.
Well said.
Thanks for that visual.
Well said. I mean, I think that we can do a quick show of hands and say if we want to, are you proposing that we, no, we're not voting on anything, but would you like to see it be 40 feet, Mr. Crown?
Whatever the abutting district is for residential, it could be 45, I don't want to put a specific one because in certain instances, like it's 40 feet for R1C and D and 35 for the E. So.
Well, you got to pick a number though.
Well, no, we could just say.
Equivalent to the adjoining.
Yeah, the setback has to be no less than the abutting property's rear yard setback.
Can it also relate to the height of the new development?
Oh, yes, yeah, that too.
In addition to,
correct, no, I agree. That language should stay, yes.
You got that, Mr. Carlisle? And Ben, or Brent?
Can I make just a couple, comments on that? So, we had a long debate, I understand Mr. Krentz' point. I will tell you that right now in our commercial zoning districts, such as CB and GB, the rear yard setback is 30 feet. So those allow, because they're outside of nodes, those allow a lot more density than the nodes would allow. So the setback we're proposing is actually larger than what we currently allow for the GB and CB developments adjacent to residential. If that's the intent of what the commission wants to do, that's fine. I just want to throw that out there that is something that you may want to think about.
Say it again, I couldn't quite grasp.
So CB and GB, which are more intensive commercial districts that allow multiple uses.
This is not neighborhood nodes, it's commercial districts, okay.
But we have them adjacent to residential and lot locations.
Fine.
We only require a 30-foot setback for those parcels.
Okay.
So if we go with your language, in some cases it would be 45 feet, which is 50% more in addition to the requirement for CB and GB. If that's the intent of the commission, that's fine. I just want you to be aware that those are existing setbacks in districts that allow a lot more intensity than what the neighborhood nodes allow. Aren't as wide or as deep as what you're proposing based on the language that's being proposed tonight.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with keeping it at the setback of neighbors. I just don't want to see a lot of pitchforks and torches, that's all. I know that's probably the biggest crowd draw to any of our meetings has to do with that setback between single family and whatever residential or new development is going to be next to them. So that's.
Mr. Fox.
Well, I guess I do want to push back to some extent for a couple of different reasons. One, the setback is only 20 feet if the building is less than 20 feet. Otherwise, it is the height of the building. So if it's a 35-foot tall building, the setback is 35 feet. And if it's a 45-foot tall, 45, etc. So the situation where it's 25, how many stories is 20 feet?
It's only, if it's next to single family, it's only going to be 30 feet high, max.
So if it's 30 feet high max, so already the setback is in reality either probably more than often going to be closer to 30 feet because developers typically build to the height that we allow them. So it's not necessarily that the setback is 20 feet. It might be that on paper, but in practice, the setback is practically 30 feet. On top of that, you've got the 30 feet, and then you add the 45 feet, meaning that ultimately these buildings are still ending up 65 feet away from any residential period because you've got the setback in the yard, and then you've also got the setback that's per the neighborhood node. And I guess to that point, I don't necessarily, I feel like in the couple of years that I've been here, the complaints that we've gotten regarding building on neighborhood nodes, I do not think this type of measure would actually prevent them from happening. I think what happens is that people do not want, like, density, it more relates to density, it more relates to building height, it more relates to, I think that limiting the setback in that way would kind of run counter to what the goal of a lot of this conversation has been in terms of making it more community feeling. Like, I guess just the more physical distance you put between people, the less community the area is gonna feel. So I guess that's my pushback to like making it 45 feet. I mean, I'm obviously open to a conversation. Like I said, practically it ends up being 30 feet anyway, regardless, typically, because people are typically building to be 30 feet. But I would be opposed to increasing it far beyond that, personally.
Anyone else on that topic? Ms. Malala.
So, on this I statement that we have, do we have to mention 20 feet or should we just, what if we just leave it as saying that it will be no less than the height of the proposed building? Which automatically will say your setback is exactly as the height of the building is. Why mention 20 feet? Which then brings into the question that Commissioner Krent mentioned. Each of these type R1s are 45 or 40 or 35 feet. Why not just mention the height?
There have been some single-story buildings in the nodes that are, the minimum height in the node is 14 feet, so there theoretically could be 14-foot high nodes, buildings in the nodes. And so this is to prevent that 14 feet, if it's 14-foot building, have it at least 20 feet back. You can't do a one-story 14-foot building in the node.
Okay, then what about the suggestion that Chairman Commissioner Krent mentioned? No less than what the abutting property is like. So if it is a single family, then you know what setback they have, so you follow the same setback. Is that going to be something difficult?
It's not difficult to write or difficult to enforce. It's just a question: is that what is that what the commission wants to do?
You know, there's another aspect of this. How big is the parcel? How big is the node? Because once you start increasing the setbacks, now you've minimized the development. Or vice versa, you say 14 feet. Well, even 14 feet isn't going to give you a drive lane and a parking stall, right? So I guess there's another aspect that really needs to be part of this discussion as to how big are these nodes or this development. And I don't know how you integrate that into the requirements, but I think we cannot not consider that aspect of it too. It's not just the distance, I understand what you're saying, Tom, and I agree with you that the residents need to be considered as far as a new development, but also the developer needs to be considered too. Because if he's got a parcel that we're telling him you've got to have this much setback, he may not be able to build whatever he's wanting to build.
But something could be built there.
Well,
I don't think it would eliminate, the difference between 20 feet and 40 feet, another 20 feet is not going to eliminate a development on a neighborhood node-sized property.
Well, tell me what the neighborhood size node property
Well, most of the,
I don't know. I mean, they all vary.
I understand, but, you know, I don't have the numbers in my head of, you know, how big each neighborhood node is.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying there's another element that we have to consider as we develop whatever this setback is, or however the language is going to be to establish a setback. It's not just from the property line to the existing residence. It's like, okay, what happens on the other side of the property line? Are we hamstringing or limiting developers to what they can do?
Well, in some cases, we should limit developers. That's my attitude.
And maybe that is why we came up with 20 feet.
And 20 feet was new. It was added within the last
5 years.
5 years. We didn't have.
Initiated by the Planning Commission.
Yeah.
Mr. Biegner?
I think generally, the bigger the parcel, the bigger the buildings, the bigger the setback should be, and vice versa. So I think Tom's heading in the right direction. I think we want to err to the side of space, in my opinion. And I see that there's smaller parcels. They don't normally put a 5-story building there. They probably can't put something smaller. And you know better than most of us in the room, so I'll defer to you as well.
I mean, I think to his point, I think that it's sort of, I mean, we can try to fit verbiage in there that talks about the size of the parcel, but I think that based on the size of the parcel, you're limited onto what you can build. So I mean, if you build too big, you need the parking that goes with it, and then do you have the space and whatever. So I think that sort of takes care of itself, I think. So I think I would be okay with keeping it the way it is or tying it to the setback of the neighbor. Mr. Fox.
I guess one other thing, just to make sure that we're considering in the context of this conversation, is that per the changes we're making, this will typically apply to C, type C, because those are the ones that are typically going to be bordering neighbors, I believe is the intent of the rewrite.
But when you see the maps, though, you're gonna see
They
that they
all
don't, not every node has A, B, and C. Some nodes just are A, some are A and B, some are B and C.
Okay.
So what this is gonna do, let's say it's a node and it's next to R1A, which is the largest rear yard setback, 45 feet. The building will be placed at least 45 feet, and the parking and entry drive will be on the residential side, because they're gonna put sidewalk, parking space, entry drive on that side, because that's gonna afford them the distance. If it's 20 feet, they're gonna push the building to 20 feet, and they're gonna have the entry drive and the parking on the other side. Pick your poison.
So residents would prefer to have not the street there, is that what you're saying?
Residents probably prefer that the site remain undeveloped.
That's true.
Go ahead.
I don't know whether you can do it, Brent, but can you pull up Livernois and Square Lake Road intersection on Google Maps for me?
Ooh, I don't know if I can on this.
See a browser.
What corner again?
Square Lake and Livernois?
Well, let's do this.
Go to Google Maps and you...
I'll do that. There we go. You said Troy Corners?
Go to the search box. Yes. Type in Square Lake and Livernois for me, please.
Well, I can go right there.
You won't be able to see the image that I would like to show everyone.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, can you hit on the big picture that you see on the left, top left? Top left? Yes, go inside that. Yes, please, thanks. Now pan to the left.
This way?
Yes, please pan. Continue to pan. Okay, now travel on Livernois for me. Just a little bit. Now pan to the left again. Pan to the left. A little bit more. Okay, no, sorry.
You want to run it?
I'm trying to get to that building that we approved, a storage building that we approved. So pan to the left again. You're just going to be on the other side.
Oh, the office?
Right, yeah.
Yes, this one, right here. So there's a road there, right, okay, go here. So this is a single family home and this is a commercial building.
Yeah.
So I want to know, okay,
There?
yes. So I want to know the distance here. The distance between their property line to this. What are we talking about here in terms of our discussion?
Very small.
44.
I can tell you that's going to be 5, 24, that's 29, and 17,
Yep.
and whatever that is.
5 or 6.
That's pretty good.
About 12 feet, 10 feet.
I'm within 6 inches. Whatever that math is.
Yeah, what's the math? 5, 24, we said?
5, 24, 17, and
46. Plus 10, 56. 56.
That's 56 feet.
that's like your 45 foot. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying that if, you gotta access it somehow, so it's either gonna be on this side or the building is 20 feet and it's on the other side of the building.
So this is where they would potentially, if we were to go with the language change, this would potentially be the place where they would put the parking lot
Yeah.
and have access, and that's not a very good setup.
When I said pick your poison, you're either
Yeah.
looking at the
Right
back
there,
of
I
the
can
building
see.
or
That is-
your parking lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, but does everyone understand? I mean, this is having the road by your house. Alternatively, the building would be where that car is. So, I mean, do you guys think that's better?
That's where he said pick your poison.
Well,
I mean, you said pick your poison, but everyone's like, ooh, we're so close to the parking lot. I mean, I know, but do you realize that the building would be right by the green belt?
it out, because that way you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, go ahead.
well, so I think with this particular building on the right, the way that the ordinance is currently written with no changes, it's based on the height of the building, correct?
Well, remember, Mr. Krentz' premise is that it's rear yard to rear yard. This is side yard. This isn't 45 feet, this is
Yeah.
10 feet.
So there's going to be a situation where we're going to have to review things. There's going to be something in the ordinance to say, well, especially, I don't know, we can't make it a special use, but there's got to be some language in there. And the other thing is to say that area has to be landscaped.
So there's a 20-foot landscaping requirement.
Right, okay.
So you're saying you want the setback and the landscaping should be in that setback too?
Yeah, you can have it,
So no
because
drive-
they've got, the neighbor has grass from the back of his house to the property line. We want any commercial coming in to have the same requirements as that neighbor, so.
Well, you got 3 trees there.
We'd have grass and trees and shrubs and then, you know what, we'll get none of those neighbors coming in with complaints because they're gonna have enough space to.
So I'm, first thing when I come to work tomorrow is I'm gonna check the site plan and look and see what was proposed right there. So,
Sure, but I'm just saying, you know, of all the things that we get crowds to our meetings, it's this issue. So I want to basically.
More space.
Yes, I want to eliminate that confrontation with single-family homeowners by doing that. And that would just do it. We can just do it because I think it's the right thing to do.
This particular node in itself is a case study, I will tell you, of things that have gone wrong.
Anyone else? Mr. Fox?
I don't, is this the type of thing that it's potentially might be helpful to the planning department? Because I fully understand Mr. Krent's points, I fully understand like the purpose of the way that I see it, that as the language is currently worded, you're never gonna get that 20 feet because they're always building a building that's taller. And it's already gonna have like a 45 setback or at least 30, because that's how high the building itself can already be. So I guess to me, I don't particularly see a need to change it. And that's why would it be helpful to the planning office, because I don't want them to have one planning commissioner saying one thing, one planning commissioner saying another thing, that we get some kind of consensus on this one so that the planning office can kind of see where we're at as a whole. I guess that's a question for the chair.
Yeah, I don't even know what to throw out there for the consensus.
For me-
Keeping it the same?
For me, the question is, do you want more space or do you want less space?
Who is, by a show of hands, who is fine with the 20 feet? Who wants
20
more-
feet or the height of the building.
Right, right. As is, I guess I should have
Yeah,
said.
right.
Who wants to see it change in some way and
More space.
increase
More
with more
space.
space, also tied to the height of a building?
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Tagle.
Could we consider what kind of a buffer we put in there? What kind of a landscape buffer to prevent that visual?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Maybe if they had some kind of a berm with planting and it was 30 feet, yeah, it could work equal to 40 feet. There's got to be some happy medium there. I agree, that's fine, it's a good point. Boy, that's a pile of worms for you, huh? Good luck, guys.
Words of encouragement.
So you have what you need for that? Bring us some magical language?
Mud.
sure.
All right, where else do we want to go with the meeting? We talked about a couple of things that we feel like we need time. We've gone through the presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Lamb?
Not a question, but maybe for those commissioners who were on the steering committee, if you spotted things that in our suggestions that you think need to be changed, either now or at the next meeting we have is the time to provide that input, so.
And to your point, Mr. Lambert, so the approach that we decided to take was to not go line by line, word for word by word, because, you know, we've all got it in advance, and 4 of the members were on the subcommittee meeting, but, you know, we're gonna bring this back, and we're gonna, the next, follow-up meeting, maybe even the next one, we're gonna talk about the maps, some of the changes to the maps. So there'll be more opportunity to ask us questions on the text.
Good.
Go ahead.
Ben and Brent, since you've been doing this for a long time, do you have a list of certain issues that have frequently come up that you have made a note of regarding neighborhood notes from the residents or the developers that you would like to also make sure that some of those frequently occurring questions or issues have been totally and thoroughly vetted? If you have it on your list, that is.
I think we've talked about it all tonight, to be honest.
Yeah, Mr. Buechner?
To answer David's question, thank you to the 4 of you guys that did all the work, and
Yep.
the 2 of you guys that helped them. That's my 2 cents.
Plus Julie.
Mr. Faison?
Plus Julie, but she's not in the room, so.
In the subcommittee meetings, did we have some visuals when we looked at the maps and
Yeah.
and things like could potentially be there? I think that would be helpful, you know? And I'm thinking particularly about this issue of the front door, you know, and what that would look like if it was a front door on the road or a patio on the road. Did you not have that, or am I thinking about something else?
I think we had them.
I thought maybe it wasn't, maybe you didn't overlay it on our nose, but I think you showed visuals of.
I think we did, yes, we did. We can provide you samples.
Maybe we talked about maybe presenting images,
That is helpful.
things that have been constructed, like a visual preference survey.
As opposed to just the text, right? So I would find that helpful, yeah.
I like that too.
Mr. Fox?
Well, and I guess one thing to, not to just harp on, you know, my anecdotal experience, I think it might be helpful, even if you don't necessarily put up a picture, but if the planning commissioners just take a quick stop at Maple and Coolidge. Because having lived there for the 3 years that I did, I really think it did a good job of encouraging like that getting out and walking to the businesses. Like there was the Rite Aid there my wife and I would always go to, the Aldana's, the restaurant. Definitely had a lot of late nights at Aldana's. And I will say, it kind of achieved that goal of like pulling us out of our neighborhood per se, apartment complex, and then getting us out to the corner. So it's a cool little spot, and Aldana's a good restaurant, so.
Ms. Malala Holly?
I just want to say what I said in the pre-meeting, the type C, the adding that is awesome, fantastic call, and definitely addresses the missing middle that we are hoping to achieve here in Troy. So thank you to whoever proposed it.
All right, I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Sabanat. Is there anything else that you would like from the commission?
No, I mean, what I'm hearing,
You got a lot, Vince? I had enough. I got a lot of homework to do.
what I'm hearing is the main thing to focus on obviously is this issue of building entrances, particularly trying to divide out commercial versus residential, and then tackling the setback / landscape buffer and making sure that's appropriate. I believe those are the 2 main takeaways from tonight. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that sounds good, that's enough. I like it.
All right, that's great. Let's move on. Can I move on? Are we closing this item up? Okay, moving on to public comment for items that are on the agenda. If anyone is here who'd like to speak on items that are on tonight's agenda, Brent is going to keep, Mr. Sabanat's going to keep time.
I want to use that mic.
You do have to sign in, and I think they're supposed to speak into the mic.
Yes.
It records, but it
Yeah,
doesn't project.
it records, and yeah, if you can get signed in, introduce yourself, and Mr. Sabanat will let you know when you run out of time. 3 minutes.
Good evening, Deborah Lozecki, Save Troy Corners, you all know who I am. Phenomenal job, guys, really. I'm very excited about it. I'm glad you kept the 3 stories at the corner. That gives us the input of what we're hoping to do. I represent over 220 local residents around the corner. I've also talked with all the major stakeholders, or I should landowners of the corner. They are all very interested in, you spoke about the northwest corner. He's very interested in sitting down and talking. That's where the little strip mall is. One of his tenants was right here also that he had to leave. But anyways, just to say this, there's people that, the landowners themselves, the commercial owners and the residents are very much wanting to sit down and go into a little bit more detail for our corner, to give it a little bit more of a definition. You're talking about doors to the road. We want that. Because we want that because you want the fronts, even if you don't use them. You brought up a great picture. I wish you'd bring that back up of that building where you showed the house, but in the front of it, they have all the utilities on the road. Where you have the law building right next, on the next side of the street, it's this gorgeous building. And you've got that one with all the utilities, the air conditioning on the road instead of on the side. They have the side of the building to the side street. So anyways, we're very interested in looking at that. I've talked to City Council, I've talked briefly to our city manager, and we just want to know what the next steps are, but you've put so much into it. It is so exciting to see what you've done with it, and we just would like to get a little bit more definition for ours being the first corner. Council has shown some consideration and thought process on it. And we just want to know what our next steps are. But I want to say thank you, guys are doing an awesome job.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak on items on tonight's agenda?
For the record, I hate speaking publicly. I really appreciate the conversation about the setbacks. I really, really appreciate that. I'm the homeowner of the house next to the Old Flower Barn, and so it's pretty obvious that that property is not being maintained to be refinished. It looks like it's going to become something newly developed, and I really appreciate the talk about the setback because something too close would make me lose all my south sunlight, and I have a lot of house plants. So, but I also like to say that I don't own a pitchfork or a torch. And lastly, I work from home, and I watch people walk and ride their bikes and walk their dogs and do their e-bikes all day long. So those kids that you saw up there, that's just, that's only a portion. And I'd love to see a pedestrian a pedestrian survey done to see how much pedestrian walkway there is in that corner to help us guide the development. Because I personally would like to see it get the speed limit reduced down to 25 miles an hour. I see children play in their yard and stuff, but I think that a survey would determine that more. But thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for all your work.
Is anyone else here who'd like to speak on items on tonight's agenda? Okay. We'll close the public comment and we will move on to Planning Commission comment. I'm going to start with Mr. Buechner.
I'm good.
Mr. Fraser.
Just to say, great job, Ben, in the presentation. Or Ben and the planning department. So.
Mr. Tingle?
I'm good.
Mr. Matson?
No thanks.
You're good?
I'm good.
Mr. Hudson?
I'm good.
Mr. Kren? Oh, yeah.
He's taking it out.
No, there's no planners gathering next week.
Well, I'm going to Tom's house.
Maybe next month I'll bring up that subject.
The planners gathering will be at Tom Kren's house. So I actually do have a bit of a larger update. So the Zoning Board of Appeals at the most recent meeting did officially pass a resolution requesting that we take a look at the ordinance that I discussed, I think it was last meeting or the meeting before, regarding the specific neighborhood along the south side of the city. I've got a copy of the resolution here, which I also, was it included in the packet as well? Copy of the resolution? Okay. If you wouldn't mind circulating it, whenever you get the chance. The resolution just officially kind of lays out the reasons for wanting to look into it. The planning office put together a really nice memo explaining like how many variances we've granted for the garage setbacks over the years. And I think Yeah, I think the ZBA's got a really good point. I think it's a good chance for us to hopefully relieve this neighborhood a bit from having to come in and pay the $500 zoning fee just to, redo what they already have. So I would encourage us to take a jump. I guess what's the next step from here since the motion officially went through the ZBA?
So this was just handed to me this morning because the ZBA meeting was July 15th.
Yeah.
So hot off the presses, a majority of the zoning board of appeals thinks that this potential text amendment's a good idea because it could relieve, as you said, from the burden of having homeowners having to get variances. The issue is, it's in section 35, so it's down by Stevenson and 14 Mile. There's 5 subdivisions that comprise what we call the Panhandle, zoned R1E, and it developed in the 50s, most of these subdivisions. And they've got detached garages that when they were built, there was no, we talk about setbacks, there was no setback requirements. A lot of these garages, and there's like dozens, maybe hundreds of non-conforming garages. They're approaching 60 or 70 years old now. We assume they're gonna wanna be rebuilt. And to be rebuilt, they're gonna need variances. There's, again, hundreds of them. So what the ZBA feels is that we amend the ordinance to allow rebuilding existing garages without variances, non-conforming existing garages without variances, for this specific area only. We can go into detail at a future planning commission meeting. We will bring this forward, but Mr. Fox, as a planning commission representative, is updating you. But again, I'm just given this morning, so it's hot off the presses. We'll be seeing it in the near future.
I think it's a good direction. You don't want to penalize somebody for fixing up their property.
Are we speaking of enlarging the garage or building on the same foundation?
Building on the same foundation.
Aren't they grandfathered if they stay on the same foundation?
Not for non-conforming, if they get torn down, they can't be rebuilt.
And if they have,
They could be maintained, but not rebuilt.
They have to go 6 feet off the property line and they're close to the
Yeah, they're currently 3 feet typically.
Yeah,
there's been 2 since I got on this.
Basically, John, what the requirement is for non-conforming buildings and structures, if it's demolished beyond 60% of its replacement value, it's got to be rebuilt in conformance with the ordinance or get a variance.
and does that include homes as well?
Yes.
Is that rather new?
No.
There's one in my neighborhood that built on the same foundation, and I know it's a non-conformity.
Maybe they got a variance.
Maybe. Okay.
Or they didn't pull permits.
I doubt that.
Anyway,
That's all I've got yet here.
Mr. Lambert, Ms. Malala?
Nothing, thanks.
Okay, and I don't have anything except for I wanted to ask, I know you guys asked a couple of times about who's available for meetings. Do we need to know anything or any meetings?
Everyone is available except you for the 12th.
All right. Well, have a great meeting. Enjoy it. All right, meeting adjourned.